Welcome to Wildly Capable with Kate, a podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, a dating, relationship, and self-worth coach on a mission to help people build better relationships, starting with the one they have with themselves. In each episode, we'll dig deep, turn inwards, and embark on a transformative journey. Together, we'll break free from unhealthy patterns, rip through self-limiting beliefs, heal past wounds, and build unwavering self-worth, all to create healthier relationships as a result. Get ready to explore the wild, untapped potential within you. Are you ready to see just how wildly capable you are? Subscribe now and join us on this empowering adventure. Remember, your wildest capabilities await. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Wildly Capable with Kate. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, and I am on a mission to help you build better relationships, starting with the one you have with yourself. So with that, today we're going to explore how technology has transformed the dating landscape. From the rise of dating apps to the impact of social media on relationships, we're going to break it all down. To start, I want to tell a little story. So I can remember back in college, I was sitting in my sorority at USC, chatting with my girlfriends and scrolling through Tinder. And yes, Tinder was the big thing back then. It was the number one dating app. It was maybe the first dating app. And I can still distinctly remember chatting with a guy named Greg over the app. We never went out, but we did become friends and we're still acquaintances to this day. That was my earliest memory of using a dating app. That was back in probably 2012. But quickly, apps became the norm. So much so that I don't even remember when they started to take over as my most common way to meet potential matches and dates. They just became a part of my life and the lives of pretty much every other person I know. At least the ones who are single and looking, that is. Dating apps and the digital age in general have absolutely transformed dating and relationships in our present day. As a dating coach, people often ask me why dating or keeping a relationship seems to be so hard nowadays. And part of my answer has to do with how digital our world is today. Today, we have options everywhere. We can swipe right as much as we want. We can scroll tirelessly looking at beautiful people in their lives. Today, we are given the illusion of endless choices, endless options. And that has led to a pandemic of people who don't know how to date with intention, who don't want to date with intention. And when they do end up finding someone that they want to date, they don't have the resilience and the skills needed to actually carry a relationship through. And I credit a lot of that to dating apps and social media. Now, does that mean that trying to date and form a lasting relationship in today's landscape is doomed? No, absolutely not. Social media and dating apps have actually done some positive things too. It just means that there needs to be a new level of awareness, both within ourselves and when it comes to how we view dating in order to create sustainable, successful love stories and relationships. So let's talk about it. First, let's start with dissecting dating apps, and we'll later chat more about how social media has affected us too. We'll also get into how to combat the negative side effects that come with both so you can have a better, healthier shot at attracting, finding, and creating beautiful, lasting relationships. Let's start by talking about how dating apps have affected the world of dating. In the past, people met through connections, through family friends, mutual friends, at school, hobbies, after school activities. My grandparents, for example, met because they just lived in the same town. Same as for the grandparents on the other side of my family. Even my parents met for the same reason when my godfather introduced my mom to my dad while they were all out sailing on Lake Erie. A person's dating pool 30, 40, 50 years ago was limited to who lived near them, who they went to school with, who they knew. They didn't have a device right at their fingertips that opened them up to an entire world of possibilities and the chances and people and options that come with those possibilities. So when they met someone, they were much more likely to stick with that person. And when you stick with someone, when it's a healthy relationship that is, then that's when you build the muscles that are needed to create a lasting, lifelong relationship. You learn the power of staying. Today, the ability to stay and to stick with something is much less celebrated. According to some sites, in 2022, there were over 366 million people using online dating services, whether that's through websites or apps. And by 2027, it's estimated that there will be 440 million people seeking love online. 440 million people, you guys. That's a huge number when you consider that not even every person in this world has access to internet. Or you consider that half the people are already taken or married. That's not even counting the people who are too young or too old to date, too. Now, today, dating apps are becoming one of the most popular and used ways in which a person can meet people who they want to date. And this is wildly different than the experiences that our grandparents and even just our parents had when they were in the dating game. Platforms like Hinge, Bumble, Raya, and Tinder have revolutionized how people meet and connect, offering a seemingly endless array of potential matches right at your fingertips. Dating apps have undoubtedly changed the game. It's pretty clear. We can all see that. They've made it easier for people to meet others outside of their usual social circles and have introduced a new level of efficiency to the whole dating process. But with convenience often comes complexity. Are we experiencing choice overload? And how has that affected the way we approach dating? Dating apps, while convenient, also cause challenges, like the superficial judgment that's based on just a few photos that you swipe through and the commodification of relationships. In fact, data from Pew Research Center has found that 47% of Americans say dating is harder now than it was 10 years ago. With the emphasis on swiping left or right based on just a few photos and a brief bio, it's easy to prioritize physical attraction over meaningful connection. It's easy to write people off or not give people who could actually be an incredible fit for you a chance. While physical attraction is undoubtedly a factor in dating, it's only one piece of the puzzle. And one of the pitfalls to dating apps is that they cause people to prioritize appearance over so many other things like personality and definitely over character. And take it from me, you guys, from all my years of research and relationships, character is what's going to matter most. So this prioritization of physical appearance leads to shallow interactions and missed opportunities for genuine connections. On top of that, dating apps and the temporary dopamine hits that they offer can create really unhealthy habits and mindsets within us if we aren't careful. Each time you get a like or a rose or a guy message you, what have you, your brain receives a literal hit of dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a role in pleasure. Every time you get that hit of dopamine, your pleasure increases, your happiness increases, your sense of self-worth increases. And on the flip side, when that one girl you really were excited about scrolling past doesn't message you back, that dopamine drops. Even cortisol, the stress hormone, can rush in those moments. These highs and lows in your brain become addictive. They're unhealthy. And if you don't pay attention to how much time you spend on dating apps, or just the mindset that you have when you are on them in general, you can find yourself becoming completely dependent on them for your source of validation. I dated a guy back in 2021 who, after we broke up, I was told via a friend that he was back on the dating apps pretty much immediately. And I was really bummed out by this. I was really hurt because I couldn't understand why he would say he just wasn't ready to date, yada, yada, but then he was right back on the dating app. So, that's a separate story, but it really hurt me. And it wasn't until I confronted him about it and said to him, hey, why are you on the dating apps already? I don't understand. And after a bit of back and forth and arguing, he admitted to me that he was on it just because he was bored and because he was lonely. That was the way that I was able to see, okay, it really has nothing to do with me. This guy is getting his self-worth and his validation through dating apps, which is something I've been guilty of. So many of us have been guilty of. And that's why we need to be so careful with the amount of time that we spend on dating apps, because we can use it for our source of happiness when that's truly not a source at all to depend on. Dependency is a huge negative side effect to dating apps. Along with, more casual views of dating, seeing it as something that should be taken less seriously, less of a desire or ability to commit. We have the paradox of choice, right? So we think that having all of these options is amazing and we want them, but then when we actually have them, we feel paralyzed with making a choice, with choosing somebody, with actually going out with someone. it becomes overwhelming. We also lose necessary skills that are needed to maintain a relationship because you just can jump from one person to the next so easily. So those skills don't develop as much. And we present ourselves online as something that we aren't in real life. And that leads to miscommunication, wasted time, false expectations. So many difficult things can come with dating apps. In a 2022 study, it was found that in the previous 2 years, more than 1/3 of people on the dating app Bumble ended a marriage or a serious relationship. That's a lot of people who are on those apps. A lot of people were going through breakups. So talk about the illusion of options. We think that dating apps are creating this, whole new world for us. But in reality, the grass isn't always greener because there will be difficulties no matter what. So while you may be able to swipe more and go on more dates and find the next best, more attractive person, when it comes down to it, when it comes down to sticking with that relationship, sticking with that engagement, sticking with that marriage for the long haul, you may not have the skills needed to do so. The grass isn't always greener. But with that said, I do also want to say that dating apps aren't all bad either. There are some positive to dating apps. There are some people who feel more comfortable meeting in person after chatting with somebody online. There can be a safety element that comes with that. It also helps people who struggle with social skills or anxiety, helps them feel calm or more confident when they do go into the face-to-face interaction. That's a really beautiful and positive thing. It's also made it easier for people to find compatible partners based on shared interests and values. And the reason for this is because we share our interests on those apps. So we can actually see, through a little bit of reading, oh, this person likes the same things I do. The apps also use algorithms to help pair you with the people that they think you will be the most closely matched with. Now, there's a biological anthropologist named Dr. Helen Fisher who has literally researched hundreds of people and put them through brain scanners to study the brain circuitry of romantic love and attachment. In her study, she zeroed in on 4 main components: dopamine, serotonin, estrogen, and testosterone. Based on those scans, Dr. Fisher developed what she calls the Fisher Temperament Inventory. And it's a personality test that scores participants based on those 4 brain systems and maps them to personality traits, sorting people into categories of explorers, builders, negotiators, and directors. Now, these categories are what they use to then pair people together. So there is some actual scientific evidence and research that's been done to help people find people that they are fit for, which is another positive. That's a good thing. Dating apps aren't all bad. In reality, it just all boils down to how you view and manage your time on them and how you have boundaries around those dating apps that will make the difference. All right, now what about social media? It's clear that dating apps have reshaped how we meet potential partners and how we view dating today. But what about the impact of social media on relationships? First of all, I view social media as being, among many other things, basically another form of a dating app. Instagram DMs, likes, story replies, it's basically the same thing as being on a dating app. It's just more public, and there's a lot less clarity behind the intention of someone's actions than there is on a dating app. When someone likes you on a dating app, they literally like you or send you a rose. It's pretty clear what they're going for. Social media, on the other hand, if you like their photo or you DM them or like their story, a lot of times that's perceived as, oh, this person is interested, but you don't necessarily know because you guys aren't necessarily on the app for the same thing. So social media can both enhance and undermine relationships, in my opinion. On one hand, it allows couples to stay connected, share special moments, express their affection publicly. That's all beautiful. That's all really great. However, it also creates the opportunity for jealousy and insecurity, particularly when individuals compare their own relationships to carefully curated images of others. Remember, social media is always just a highlight reel. On top of a lack of intention or comparison, there are also numerous other struggles that social media has created when it comes to dating and relationships. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook allow us to share our lives with the world, but they also open the door to jealousy, insecurity, and comparison. One of the biggest things that I work with my clients on and that they are struggling with is how to handle social media in relationships. It's something I even had to work through in my own relationship. What are the boundaries around liking another person's photo? What are the boundaries around chatting with people online? There's a lot of things to figure out when it comes to social media. I've seen the effects that it can have on people's self-esteem. I've seen how, a girl's boyfriend may like a photo, maybe it's another woman's provocative photo, and how that really hurts the woman, how that makes her feel like she's not good enough, she's not pretty enough, like he wants something else. There are so many things that can come with social media when it comes to relationships if we are not aware and if we don't have boundaries and conversations around it. So how do we handle the digital age in a healthy way? As technology continues to evolve, which it's going to, it's likely that online dating will continue to play a significant role in the dating world, especially with AI on the rise and fake Instagram profiles being made of, artificial intelligence beings. We are going to have to pay so much attention to this. This is going to be such an important part of the dating landscape. So how do singles and couples alike handle this new and ever advancing digital age that we find ourselves in? When it comes to dating apps, I believe that boundaries are going to be crucial. Boundaries are needed to be created and maintained without question. You absolutely have to have boundaries around these things. You absolutely have to have conversations around these things. For example, a boundary you could set with yourself is to only give yourself 10 minutes a day to swipe on a dating app or to talk to somebody. If you're not getting off the dating app and meeting that person within the first, few conversations, what are you even doing? You're just wasting your time. You don't need a pen pal. Another boundary you can set is no liking another woman's provocative photos. That's a boundary that you and your partner can decide together. That's a boundary that I have in my relationship, and I see with so many other relationships too. Social media can create a lot of temptation. We are scrolling on TikTok or Instagram and we see beautiful, polished people. We see people giving us their highlight reel, and that can be attractive. That can be tempting. So if you want your relationship to last, if you don't want to give way to the temptation that can come from it, there needs to be boundaries and conversations, like I keep saying, around it. What are and aren't you okay with? What will be okay and not acceptable in the relationship? Talk about that with your partner. Some other tips I have for navigating this digital age is to understand that the purpose of the app is just to introduce you to people. It's not where you then form the relationship. You need to get offline and get in person. Next, less is more. No binging. The brain, as so many of us know, is built to cope with about 5 to 9 choices only. Dr. Helen Fisher, the doctor I just talked about, is actually the one who is quoted to say that. And then she goes on to say that it's cognitive overload, or what's called the paradox of choice, and you end up choosing nothing when you go over, that 5 to 9 choices. You just get overloaded and you choose nothing. So remember that less is more. No binging, limit your time on those apps. Also remember that physical appearance isn't everything. 49% of Americans have said they ended up falling for someone who they weren't initially attracted to. You need to be more attracted to their personality and more attracted, even more than that, to their character. It is their character and the compatibility you have with a person that will get you through the tough times of the relationship and of life, not their appearance. We all get ugly eventually. Next, don't rush or force anything. Dating apps, because they are at our fingertips, social media is at our fingertips, it can cause us to move too quickly. It can cause us to speed things up because we know we can go on to the next option if this one doesn't work out. Instead, what I advise with this and with any dating situation, period, is to slow down. Build a healthy, slow, not rush foundation. Get to know somebody in, plenty of amount of time so you can really see who they are before you decide if you want to jump into things with that person or not. Slow down. Don't rush. Don't force things. And last but not least, get to know that person before chatting too much and becoming attached. This kind of goes hand in hand with the last one I just said. When you move too quickly, you get too attached and you miss things that you maybe needed to see before deciding if you want to be with that person or not. So get to know somebody, really ask them questions, spend the proper amount of time with them before you decide to give them your heart or your body. And you also need to be aware of the way you're thinking about dating apps and social media. What are you telling yourself as you're swiping or as you're DMing somebody? Are you telling yourself that they're disposable, that there's always somebody next? Are you telling yourself that it's no big deal if you just keep chatting with them and chatting with 20 other people at the same time? What is your mindset around social media? What is your mindset around dating apps? Take that into account. Pay very close attention to that. And if the mindset isn't so healthy, let's work on healing it. And then I know I harp on this all the time, but communication is key. Couples need to establish boundaries around social media usage, openly discuss their feelings and insecurities, and prioritize quality time together offline. Get off your phone, get off your laptop, and just be with each other face to face. It's also essential to remember that what we see on social media is often not real. People don't always put their low moments on social media. They put their high moments. So it is not the full picture of someone's life or relationship. So don't compare. Be grateful for what you have. Know that the grass isn't always greener. And remember that digital world isn't always the real world. I hope this episode gives you guys some ideas and tips and insights on how to navigate this ever-changing digital landscape that we find ourselves in, especially when it comes to dating and relationships. It's a strange, beautiful, interesting world that we live in. And I think it's only going to continue to change and even more rapidly, like I said, with AI developing. So start now. Start taking into account what your mindset around these digital things is. Start paying attention to how you behave on social media. Do you spend too much time on there? Are you comparing too much? Are you, scrolling too much when you're on dating apps? Are you swiping for hours on end? Are you getting your validation and your worth from those roses and those likes? Pay attention to those things now, because as the digital age continues to expand and advance, it's only going to become harder to hold yourself accountable for those things. So build those muscles now, make that a practice in your life now, and you'll have such an easier time when it comes to dating and relationships. I hope this inspires you guys to take, a little bit of a hard look at your behaviors around social media and dating apps. And I hope that it gives you some wisdom on how to form healthier relationships with these things being such a big part of our lives. Let me know if you took anything from this, if you're going to implement any of it into your life or into your relationships. Leave me a comment on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are listening to this from. Reach out to me on Instagram. If you're interested in learning more about boundaries and how to build healthy relationship skills, which we all need, then DM me the word capable and we'll explore what coaching could look like for you. For those of you who don't know, I'm a dating, relationship, and self-worth coach. And I'm here to help you develop those skills. I'm here to help you build better relationships, starting with the one you have with yourself. So part of that is definitely learning your mindset, boundaries, self-limiting beliefs, all the things that can come with dating apps, social media, and technology. So DM me the word capable, and we will get started. And then tune in here next week for another episode of Wildly Capable with Kate. Thank you guys so much for joining. I hope that this was insightful. I hope it gave you some ideas, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. See you guys next time.